Filtering in.
There we go. We're filtering in. So this part of the pod, the filter in part, as we're on the internet now, is not normally on the actual podcast. This is only for the YouTube and Twitch and Twitter viewers. But since Mike is MIA, probably asleep, and I'm going to need to do this with CJ, and maybe if MOC wakes up or returns by text or something, maybe with Mike, but I'm going to have to do this entire pod by myself, which I don't think I can do. I work with people who have to do this kind of stuff, like that's their job. Sports radio people talk to themselves. CBS, WFAN a little less so, but CBS Sports Radio, there's a lot of talking to yourself for 3 or 4 hours. They're incredibly talented at it. I am not.
You used to do this though, right?
I used to, but it was local sports talk radio. So local, you're talking to callers a lot. Now, occasionally I would have to fill 10 or 15 minutes by myself, but I was in practice. I'm not in practice now. Like I got out of it because I wasn't good at it. I'm good at thinking about it, but I'm not good at doing it. But in any case, so we're going to have to fill the time of the pod. So you're getting the filter in part. So we do almost all the pods live now. If you're listening to this on the actual podcast rather than video, rather than watching it now. If you're watching it on YouTube and Twitch, give us questions. We might need this later. So if you're watching live on Twitter, YouTube, Twitch, give us questions. In any case, doing this, what was I going to say? Oh, I need to honestly fill up more time. But if you're listening to the podcast part, we do this live all the time on YouTube and Twitch. It's usually Wednesday nights and Saturday or Sunday mornings. I feel like we should post a schedule somewhere so people know when it's going to be. Not that they're going to, schedule their lives around it, but at least
they got a little taste of it last pod because I cut in Mike's
Mike's
ramp it up. Yeah. Ramp it up in the beginning of the filter. So yeah, it was a little taste of the filter in the regular pod.
So this is the filter in part where we let people get into the live part. But so it's being recorded on Saturday morning at 11:17 a.m. Eastern time, 8:17 Pacific time. My guess is that Mike slept in. I hope nothing bad happened to him, or this will be a very sad podcast at some point. If there's something bad that happened to Mike. No, we're not taking live Zoom callers. Okay, here we go. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. And I have sent an invite, a text invite to Mike O'Connor, because at least it's another Mike. It's less preparation for me to do with another person who has the same name as my normal co-host. I couldn't really ask anybody else. Alonzo's around. I don't feel like texting anybody. And now I'm doing the podcast, so I can't text them. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up. Do you know Zoe's cell phone number?
No, I don't.
Maybe I'll text it to you. Maybe I'll text it to you. AU's tech problems I can't deal with this morning. So AU always has some sort of tech issue, whether it's noise or his camera is broken or something like that. So I can't deal with that now. And I certainly can't deal with it being live, but there we go.
Do you want to DM Zoe?
Well, I'm going to share his contact with you. You have an iPhone, right? Yeah,
I do.
I'm going to share his contact with you and you can send him a text and maybe Zoe will join us. That would be fun. So in any case, you text him. Maybe we have Zoe. The Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast is presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook by using promo code RTRS and brought to you by Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Body Bio, supplements for a healthier life. Also, I assume it's possible Zoe just saw this on the internet.
It's a good chance.
And he hears the live request. And it's also possible that AU saw me say no. I just can't. I love AU on the pod. I just can't deal with the tech problems right now. What's it called? Where was that? Big Barker Therapeutic Dog Beds. Get yours at bigbarker.com/Ricky. Body Bio, supplements for a healthier life. Get 20% off any purchase with code RTRS20 at bodybio.com. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, where Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners go and get engaged. And Kinetic Skateboarding. Get free tunes for the life of the board with the purchase of any new snowboard. On the show today, I'm doing it myself because Mike's not here. A genuinely stunning win for the Sixers over the Hawks. When I say we, I mean mostly me with a little bit of CJ, talk about the floor and ceiling of every young player on the Sixers. And is this year a good opportunity for a stealth tank? a stealth tank. Mike O'Connor wrote about that on rightstoRickySanchez.com yesterday. I haven't plugged the Carl Landry Record Club podcast in a while, so I'll plug that now because Mike rolls his eyes when we do it. We do a music podcast too. Mutlu and I do a music podcast called Carl Landry Record Club, and the idea of it is to turn you on to new music that your Spotify or Apple Music wouldn't normally suggest to you. What those algorithms do is they suggest to you music that you already like, which is fine, but we like to discover music from each other. So we get suggestions from listeners and we give them to each other and then we talk about them. So this week's pod was Daniel Johns, the lead singer of Silverchair, Talk. We talked about that album, and Fall Out Boy's Take This to Your Grave. So you can go to carllandryrecordclub.com for more on that. Without any further ado, Amos and the chef.
Larry, sweetie, the man is here. Say the name. I say the name. I say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We was right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. We were right, y'all. We were right. Even when it went wrong, we were right. We were right, y'all. We were right. So say the name. Say the name. Say the name.
Welcome to the Rights to Ricky Sanchez podcast. I'm Spike Eskin, along with a guy who isn't here and a guy who is, that is no Mike Levin, but there is producer CJ in his new apartment with his tiny door and his serial killer walls.
That's right. What door that's tiny? The closet door?
So the closet door. So CJ moved. CJ now has his own apartment in Philadelphia. We're not going to tell you where, but he has his own apartment. He has really good internet. But he just moved in, so there's nothing on the walls. So it's plain white walls. Looks like he's a serial killer. But the aspect, sort of like the perspective that we get, because you're in the front and the door is way in the back, it looks like you have a tiny door. It's so good.
Looks like a normal size door to me.
No. If anyone's in the chat, it looks like a tiny door. Matt says it looks like a tiny door. It does look like a tiny door.
It's an interesting observation. I have a standing desk now included in my new apartment, so the camera's probably pointing downwards
a little bit.
Maybe
that makes you look better, I think, too, right? Doesn't pointing downward camera? Don't girls like that? My wife. I don't want to. I'm not objectifying or generalizing, but my wife and her friends seem to like the camera pointing down.
I think any extreme is bad, like if it's too low or too high. But I think, like, as long as it's not just straight center, then
look at that tiny door. So the Apple Podcast 5-star review is actually ironic given the context. We are at 2,976 5-star ratings on Apple Music. When we get to 3,000, I will read all of the reviews by myself. Maybe we should make Mike CJ walk. Can you walk into the door while I'm this is such a good now CJ looks tiny. Anyway, when we get to 3,000 5-star ratings, I will read all the reviews from 2,000 to 3,000 on a pod. These have been going up exponentially when I started doing this again. This comes from UD Jack. The subject line is shared pain. I feel like Mike and I have the same uncontrollable connection to the heart-wrenching team. Spike is adequate. So I have built my career on being adequate, and part of being adequate is just showing up. That's what I did today. I agree with Mike that availability is not the best ability, but it has been my best ability in my career.
Maybe I have a theory. So maybe sometimes I've heard through withdrawal, you can't like cold turkey it. Like it needs to kind of be a balance. Maybe the snap of bad vibes with the good win last night broke Mike. As I say this, Mike has
he just wasn't ready for it. He went cold turkey off bad vibes.
Yeah. As I say this, Mike has joined the Google Doc.
Well. This will add well, here's the good thing for Mike. he skipped the filter in, which he hates.
Yeah.
You know what this is like? What Mike did is like what Jason Peters does in training camp and doesn't have to go to camp and just shows up for the games. That's what happened. He missed the 5-star review. He missed the filter in, all the stuff he hates. And there he is.
And without further ado,
there he is.
Sorry, guys. My bad.
First 10 minutes of the pod, I was doing solo. Well, a little bit of CJ. It was like 80% me, 20% CJ. He was doing a great job.
I messed up.
Yeah.
Sorry, everybody.
I likened your appearance. So you missed the filter in. You missed the 5-star review. You're sort of like the Jason Peters of the pod in that you don't participate in training camp. You just get there for the games.
And I can't move very well also.
Yeah. Yes. And you have your own guy stretching you, which I saw once at training camp. Jason Peters, this is a funny story. I was at camp once and everyone on the team had been out on the field, like running sprints and stretching, all that stuff. Jason Peters shows up 25 minutes into it, basically high-fiving everyone as they're stretching, lays in his own area, and has a guy stretch him. It was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Real boss move.
The high five sounds nice.
As
long as you're happy to be there.
Yep, for sure. So we'll get right into the game. Of course, we're doing Sixers, Hawks, Sixers, young players, ceiling and floor. Just informing you, Mike, as you just got here, maybe talk a little stealth tank. Last night, a really stunning win, I think, for everyone concerned. But I think there's a way that you can win a game like this. This is actually a great sort of polarization between the Celtics game and the Hawks game. The Sixers could have won that Celtics game, and it would have felt like they lucked into a win. Similar scores, all that kind of stuff. But this game, the purpose they played with on offense in the second half, it was never perfect, right? But I don't feel like they lucked into that win. I feel like they earned that win last night, and it was an encouraging, from an Embiid perspective specifically, but an encouraging unexpected win rather than what the Boston win would have just been fuck that. We ended up with more points than the other team.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that they looked very sluggish in the first half. And there were still times when they just stood there. There was one possession where just Danny was holding the ball like 30 feet from the basket and was like looking around, and I just started screaming. And I think I've really gotten, it's not only a Danny thing, but like my tolerance for just like slow possessions, I'm just becoming a grizzled old coach. Yeah. But they really did turn it around in the second half. And my particularly most impressive thing was, I've gotten on Embiid a lot for how he's looked offensively. His touch is not there. Like, it's just not. It wasn't there last night. Still, for the most part, hit a couple shots, but still, like, didn't feel like the mid-range savant that he was last season.
Almost every shot, by the way, front rim.
Yeah,
almost every shot, which is I think significant to note.
Yeah, but I thought he was passing really well. I thought he was really had an eye for distributing. It seemed like it was like whether it was kickouts or some duck-ins, he had some underneath passes, which I always love. He definitely turned the ball over a couple times, wasn't perfect, but when he wasn't being careless, when he wasn't just sort of being the whatever, I don't have this, when he knew where he wanted to go with it, he really made some nice passes, and I thought that was nice. This is not relevant to last night that much, but I would love for the offense to be spaced more the way that Brett used to space the shooters, like beyond the 3-point line, so that there is more room so that there's more room for them to operate, and then they can step into it rather than the pass. And then they're like, Tobias tippy toes right on the line. I just feel like that would help a lot and would cause other guys to not, hesitate before doubling, because it's more space for them to travel before there. But I thought Embiid was, especially in the second half last night, really, really good.
The word that I would use to describe Embiid's passing and his offense in the second half, even without that touch, is purposeful. Like, even though he threw a pass to Danny Green in the corner, it was a nice pass because he had to go over a couple people that Danny Green hit the shot, but it was just got the ball, double came, through the pass. And then there was another one to Seth Curry at the top of the key, and the shot didn't go in, but it was purposeful. And to your point about space, there's really two things you can do when Embiid has the ball in the post. You in a very short thing, you can move or not move, right?
Mhm.
And if you're not going to move, then you have to be able to be creating enough space that it makes it easy for Embiid to work, and it makes it punishing for the other team to double. And if those players, you would think with Morey being part of this, I'm sure Morey understands it, because those Houston teams shot more long threes than any other team in the NBA. It really shows the difference between somebody like Danny Green and Tobias, because I think if Danny Green is standing 4 feet beyond the 3-point line, I think the defense thinks he will shoot it, but I don't think they think Tobias will shoot it.
Sure.
So, but I thought they were purposeful on offense. I think I brought this up before too. It makes me wonder about Embiid's mid-range thing, which was, when you think about it from last year, was pretty unbelievable how lights out he was from mid-range.
Yeah.
I thought every shot was going in. I wonder, we'll never know this, I wonder how much not having fans in the arena contributed to him being able to shoot mid-range so well. Like perspective-wise, all those things considered, it was just such a stark difference. He shot, maybe he was lucky, but the percentage he shot from mid-range last year and the confidence that he and we had in him shooting it was just so beyond any other year of his career. And that is the only thing I can think of that was different.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, like, it's not like it's the bubble, right? Like, Anthony Davis as a shooter is a guy that I don't believe in him being an elite shooter. And in the bubble he was.
Mhm.
And there were some fans in some arenas last year.
Well, not till the end though. I mean, not really. It wasn't until like the last quarter of the season. It was mostly empty arenas last year. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I still think he's still an excellent foul shooter. He's always been an excellent foul shooter. It seems like he's just fading away a little bit more on everything. And he can hit those shots. Obviously, he can hit those shots. Obviously, he can get hot from wherever he wants. He still looks good from three. I'd like him to shoot more threes. We're still talking about the same stuff always. But the one note that I hope he improves as a mid-ranger, and we can just be like, this is who he is, and it's just had a rough stretch. Fine. And also, like, if he hasn't really talked about it too much still, but like if COVID was as bad for him as it seems like it was, losing your legs and not getting enough lift on your shot seems pretty reasonable.
Well, and him, as much as anybody, he loses fitness probably quicker than any other player on the team.
Sure. Yeah. But there was one play that I obviously watched on ESPN out here. Van Gundy, Jeffrey Van Gundy, made note of one time that Embiid rolled on a Korkmaz drive.
Yes.
And it wasn't a hard roll. He's not Rashawn Holmes out there, but just like drifting toward the basket, he has to be accounted for so much that it allowed for an open lane for the driver. I don't think he should do it every time. I think pick and pop makes sense a lot of the time, but sometimes he has to roll, and he doesn't have to roll that hard. He just has to do it a little bit. And he talked about it in that game. I think it was the Minnesota game. Yeah, because D'Angelo Russell picked it up. But he talked about how with a maxi pick and roll, he popped, and he's like, I should have rolled. And he expected me to roll, and that's why that turnover was on me when D'Angelo picked it off. And it's just like, it's just not in his nature. I don't know what it is, but I would love to see like a couple more times a game that he does that, because then he's open for, even if he doesn't get the shot, he's open for offensive rebounds. He's huge. Like, we need some more of that. And if you surround him with shooters outside, then you don't have to worry so much about like clogging the paint. Like if Matisse is in there, maybe you don't do it, but yeah.
Mike, this is going to seem early for you because you just got here, but it's Big Barker time. I actually, as from a Big Barker perspective, I just want to read this email. It came from James. I was just down in South Florida visiting my parents. We're all from Montgomery County for Thanksgiving. Sitting around our living room, my mother remarked that our dog, a 13-year-old yellow lab Dozer named Dozer, my dog's bed was starting to get old and smelly. As any Ricky listener would have in the situation, I jumped on the opportunity to make an off-the-cuff remark about the Big Barker and how it's been verified by Penn Vet as the best dog bed around. My father almost immediately hopped onto his iPad and purchased one, not caring about the cost in the slightest, stating that even if he sleeps on it for one night, it's worth it. We got it delivered today, and he loves it so much so that
pretty dramatic.
Yeah,
he'll sleep on it for more than one night.
Yeah, but that's how you should think about your dog, right? You should think, if I can make my dog's life better for one day, I should do it. BigBarker.com/Ricky is where you get the Big Barker with the processed pup patches. The rest of the email, we got it delivered today, and he loves it so much that he brought his best friends, 2 stuffed hedgehogs and his Frisbee onto it with him. According to my parents, he's been snoozing on it since it came in the mail 30 minutes ago. He is an old dog whose hips and back legs are starting to go after years and years of swimming in the lakes of upstate New York in the summertime. And I think he's happy to have a bed that gives his joints and hips the rest they've been yearning for. Please see the attached photos for the Process Pup Gallery and feel free to use this story as a testimonial. Unfortunately, my dad refused all attempts at me putting the Process Pup patch on the side, but we're still happy to support a local company and even happier that my dog can spend his last couple years in maximum comfort. It's by the way, the photos with the stuffed hedgehog and the Frisbee are fucking amazing. I'll post them on the Instagram. Look, the Big Barker is the only dog bed that you should be getting your dog. It is a real bed. It supports your dog's joints. As James said, it is proven by Penn Vet. Your job as a dog rescuer is to make that dog's life comfortable and healthy, and Big Barker does it. BigBarker.com/Ricky. You get the Big Barker dog bed and the Process Pup patches. If your dad won't let you put it on the bed, you can put it on whatever you want. You can have the patches, you can put it on your wall, whatever. BigBarker.com/Ricky. There's a 10-year warranty. The foam doesn't flatten or they replace it for free. If you don't like it, they'll give you a full refund within a year and even pay for the shipping. Handmade in the USA. Big Barker dog beds. Rest of it, I didn't have too much on the rest of the game. It was another pretty good shake game, you know.
I did just want to say, like,
yeah,
there was watching Embiid. I feel like you always watch Embiid's facial reactions a lot during a game and determine whether or not he's invested or not. And there was, after he hit that shot to put him up 2, he went to the bench. He like gave Danny like a soft high five, like there was no emotion whatsoever. And I was like, oh, that's kind of what's going on there. Like, why is he doing this? And then when Gallinari missed, he like exploded.
Yeah,
like it felt like there was something that like came out of him that we just hadn't seen in a while. And I was like, oh, I think he was just like really, really tense about wanting to win this fucking game. And it was like a really like it was like a kind of like 1970s baseball celebration. Like it was ugly. Like it wasn't like a clean, fun celebration. He just like lost his mind. So I just thought seeing that was pretty cool to get the win for him, because
I think it was relief too.
It was definitely
relief.
And also like it was also nice to just see him contest a buzzer beater shot that hit the rim and didn't go in again like that.
Yeah.
It should, when it hits the rim like that, it should rim out. And I'm glad that it did.
Yeah. Yeah, and I was assuming it was going to go in. It was Gallinari who I rate Gallinari higher than he should be rated. I think he's awesome. I love Gallinari, but I was sure that fucking shot was going in. And the other thing I wanted to bring up, because we were talking about Sacramento, and like I don't want to actually, I think this is a good transition into the young players on the Sixers to talk about them. But we were talking about Sacramento and how after all these years of being bad, you look at them and they had a bunch of fine draft picks, you know, players who could contribute on good teams but nothing like special. And then I was just thinking about the Hawks last night, even what they were missing last night, but the number of good young players it seems like they have compared to, it seems like the Sixers are like right in the middle of those two teams. Like the Hawks to me have sort of an abundance of young and actually promising players, and then one star in Trae Young. And the Sixers at this will end up with one star, at least at this point right now, but the only player that the Sixers have that I feel like I would feel the same way about, that I feel like the Hawks secondary players is Maxey, right? And I feel like the Sixers are like in between how the Hawks did and the Kings did.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, the Hawks definitely went upside for a lot of those guys, right? I think that Cam Reddish, I think, is the exact kind of player that you would love if you were not a Hawks fan. And then if you were watching him as if he was your guy, you're like, just fucking put it together, man. Like, keep it together. And I think there's a lot of frustration there. He's a good player. He's better than I thought he would be this quick. I thought he was just too raw to ever really get it there, but he definitely has a ton of ability. DeAndre Hunter, I really always liked. He's super sturdy, and just his offensive game has developed faster as well. And just as a really like pretty immovable defensive player. They're pretty good. I think like if Maxey has the career, obviously they're very, very different players, but if Maxey has the career of like John Collins, like where he's like sub all-star, but like very, very good, then that would be probably like a medium outcome. But the Sixers, I mean, the Sixers do have a bunch of young guys. Like they're just not, the Hawks were for so long in a position of like, we're drafting high and we are building for the future. We're just going upside. And the Sixers have gotten a lot of these guys in the late first or into the second round. So I think it's a slightly different situation. But I would say, like, if you look at, young cost-controlled role players that are contributing, I think the Sixers are doing almost as good as anybody else in the league. That is one area that they haven't struggled
in. Do you think, though, they're contributors now? Do you think that those players would be contributors if we consider them a real title contender, or are they contributors out of necessity? I'm not saying that they're not good, but I'm saying that is their current contribution due to lack of better options, or is it because they're so good?
No, I think that they're real contributors, and they could be. I think if Doc tightens the rotation up to be 8 in the playoff series as they get deeper into it, then sure. But yeah, I mean, I think Matisse would contribute on any team. I think Shake could. I think Korkmaz, if he's shooting well, could. I think Isaiah Joe should. That's where I'm at. I told my friend who is doing, this is a DraftKings promo, but my buddy I used to work with reached out about it, and he like, hey, any tips? And I was like, I think Isaiah Joe's going to play. It's going to be for cheap for DraftKings, but he didn't get in there. I thought Doc was souring on Korkmaz, although Korkmaz did have a nice game. So yeah, I mean, I love our young guys. I believe in them. I still, as you'll see in this next segment, still believe in Jaden Springer. So you're not gonna get me there, but it's the high level guys that you depend on more, that without Ben and with Tobias struggling, with Embiid not shooting as well as he should be, then that's where you're struggling. I think role players are role players. This Sixers team has more depth than any in recent memory. But there's only so much they can do. That's their role.
Yep. So the next thing we were going to talk about
I had a couple more things about the game.
Oh yeah, yeah, for sure. Go ahead.
I just want to say Seth is, God, what a fucking conundrum. Every time it's crazy to do this every game, that he is just so good and then just disappears every game. It is remarkable. It is really like a true talent. Like, I would love to run, like, cause he dominates in the game when they're not like solely focused on him. And then he'll rip off like 12 points in the first quarter, and it'll be like, oh fuck, we got to focus on him. And then he'll be like, I'm done. I'm good. Like, don't worry about me. I'm sitting, I've got my feet up, as if like I made dinner and now like somebody else is doing the dishes. Like, that's somebody else's problem. It's not mine. And he's just like hanging out on the court. I would love to run more Seth pick and roll. I would love to run. Obviously he's not super fast, but his threat as a shooter has just so much gravity. It has players jumping out of their pants. He's a fine passer, even though he's so small that he can't really see a bunch of other stuff. He gets rattled as a ball handler sometimes, for sure. But like Seth Joel pick and roll with Joel rolling, I would just like to see it more. I feel like it would be helpful. And I think he would be served by, as well, more fast players on the team, so that his slowness was not such a compounding detriment.
And I agree. And I think the thing to compare it to is that I think Seth is not a great dribble handoff guy, which Embiid is so used to, like, creating that way.
He's gotten better at it. He's gotten more used to it, for sure.
He's gotten better, but his release is not quick enough, and he's not athletic enough. Redick had such I'm going to compliment Redick, had a quick release, was willing to fire from anywhere, and had sort of it's not like he was super athletic, but he had a pop to his sort of like short, and Seth doesn't have any of that. And I think if you run that in pick and roll, it gives him the opportunity. He's a much craftier dribbler and a better passer than JJ is. And I think those things lend themselves better to running screen and roll. But to your point from earlier, Embiid's got to roll. Yeah. He's got to roll for it to make it valuable for Seth. He's got to roll.
Totally. I also want to say I get on Seth for his defense a lot, but the off-ball defense in that critical possession late, when he intercepted John Collins, was excellent. Like, it was really good. Embiid lost Collins initially, and Seth helped off of his man to like stem basically an inbounds lob, which would have been crushing. And then he went back to his man and then tracked his eyes. It was great. Danny also helped rotate onto the Collins drive too. He's always really great at that. I thought this team does have a lot of, including Matisse, like really good off-ball defenders, smart off-ball defenders. And they just seem like without Ben, and sometimes Matisse taking gambles and stuff, it does seem like they could use one more like good on-ball defender that is tough to get by, especially from the point of attack, which, as you'll find out in the next segment, for me is Jaden Springer, but maybe not this year, but eventually. And then the last thing, Maxey turning the corner is great. I think it was a fine Maxey game. Like, did what he had to do. This looked like more what you'd expect a second-year player, like taking a big role. Still didn't turn the ball over, but like he turns the corner.
It's been him since the last 5 games, but since
this wasn't right. But this wasn't like. Last game was his worst game of the season.
I agree.
And this was like just like game. I'm doing what I'm good at. So I'd still like to see more threes. And the defenses really are accounting for him now. Like when he turns the corner, he had 2 guys collapse on him for one play. One was John Collins. I forget who the other one was. And Collins ended up blocking him at the rim. But if you're drawing 2 help defenders as on a paint drive with your man behind you, you did your job. Somebody's open. And you got it like. I think he's got good vision when the whole floor is spaced out in front of him, but I would like to see a little more of that quick reaction time when it's like, oh shit, I have guys on me. Danny's open for 3 in the corner. And so I would think that's the next evolution of his game as a floor general distributor type, because that's his elite skill is turning the corner on guys, but now he has to use that to get other guys open, not just get looks for him at the rim.
Yeah, I agree. I think I don't want to talk about it now. It's a good thing to talk about the Maxey thing in regard to MOC's Stealth Tank article, because I think, we'll talk about that later. That later.
Last thing is, I just want to shout out George Niang, such an asshole, so necessary on this team. Like, absolutely needed it. Didn't realize, I don't know why, maybe there were just too many assholes on the Jazz that I didn't realize that he had this was his character. But like he's got it, and it's really nice. He was working for position for defensively on Collins. There was a post up that Collins tried to have him on. He's like, oh, I got this chubby guy in the post behind me. I'm gonna like put him in the basket. And Niang's just working his ass off down there, and he ended up stepping in and picking it off. And it's just like him and occasionally Embiid, although it's hard for your best player to beat this guy, especially if he's not a guard, are the only like real assholes on the team. And Zoe talks about it a lot in the newsletter where we just need an asshole. And I'm glad that it's Niang. I would like an asshole that was a little bit more athletic, maybe asshole that can leap over the rim, but I thought it was necessary. I thought he played a pretty nice game last night for sure.
Yeah, I agree. Before we get to the ceiling and floor, what we're going to do with the young players is talk about their best comp floor and their best comp ceiling and what we think is more likely if we had a bet. And we will do that next. Right now, I want to talk about your health. So important. Body Bio is our partner in health. Obviously, the Sixers are our partner in lack of health and instability, but Body Bio is our partner in stability. Body Bio is a supplement company. They're great because they're local and they're family owned and operated. Body Bio Mike, shout out Body Bio Jess. And the reason that is a plus, that they're smaller, is that it means that they can change quicker. And big companies, it's harder for them to change. That's in everything, but in supplements and science, it's important because it changes so often. So I'll say always that the first step to being healthy and your immune system and stuff is how you live your life. It's what you eat, it's your sleep, all of those things. So without that, it's going to be tough. You can't just use supplements. But what Body Bio stuff does is that it fills in the blanks. For me being vegan, it's actually, I need the blanks filled in. For me not sleeping enough sometimes, I need some of those blanks filled in. Talk about 2 things that we talk about all the time that Body Bio provides, that Body Bio can get you. Elite, which helps you with hydration, and liposomal vitamin C, which helps you with your immune system directly by adding vitamin C. Hydration. I was talking to a coworker last night who was thinking about running a marathon. And I said, the mistake that people make is they think hydration is all about just water. It's not. It's about the balance of electrolytes with water. So you can't just drink water. You need electrolytes. What Elite is just pure electrolytes. So it's not like any of those sport drinks where you're getting sugar and artificial flavors and colors and calories, all that. Elite is just electrolytes. You take a small cap of it and you put it in whatever you drink once a day. and you'll stay hydrated. It's super important. What it really helped me with is I used to cramp in my legs all the time, in my feet. It would happen while I was driving. Since I started using Elite, nothing. And then liposomal vitamin C is their vitamin C supplement that is better because it doesn't release till it gets to your cells. And even vitamin C in food and vitamin C in supplements is water soluble, which means you get all the vitamin C, you piss it all out. But liposomal vitamin C, you're holding on to more of it. It doesn't release till it gets to your cells. It's great. I love Body Bio. Go to bodybio.com and use promo code RTRS20 for anything they have, and you'll get 20% off. Not the first time, not the second time, anything, anytime. Bodybio.com, use promo code RTRS20, and make sure you're healthy. We care about you. All right. Let's go through these players. I don't want to do Maxey first. We'll push Maxey to the back. Why don't we do... you mentioned Jaden Springer. I don't even have them for Jaden Springer. Let's do Jaden Springer first. What is your best floor comp and your best ceiling comp, and what do you think is more likely?
The floor is definitely. With some of them I erred on the side of Sixers, so our listeners can more intimately know them. But so with Springer, I think the floor, like, he's already going to be a better defensive player, this guy. Mm-hmm. But if he's like the worst version of Evan Turner, like the constantly getting blocked version of Evan Turner, that would be tough. That would be a tough hit. Where if the defense doesn't play as much as I think it will, he can't get a shot off against anybody. His handling is functional but not explosive. He doesn't have the natural shooting from three. Evan obviously made himself into a fine player, but like the version of Evan that was like just getting stuffed in summer league constantly, and me specifically being like, no, it's gonna be fine. No, getting blocked on jump shots is actually cool. That would be tough. So the ceiling is some version of Drew. Like obviously it's a long way to go there, but some version of like Drew, or like maybe more naturally George Hill.
It's so funny that I just don't see that when I watch him play. I guess I would have had to watch more college than I watch.
He looked really, really uncomfortable in preseason.
Yeah.
Just had a little like of that kind of Zaire like ghost, like very scared looking type thing. Didn't know what he was doing. Didn't really know how to play off ball that much. But when you watch him in the G League, like he looks way, way better, way more comfortable, way more like knowing what he does. So hoping that translates over as he keeps getting better over the couple years. And my mid would be Aaron McKee. Like if we find a mid ground between those guys of just like defense, some shooting, obviously like it's hard to compare eras like that. Aaron would have shot 7 threes a game if he was here today, but just like heady defense, some creation, but not like a true point guard. And just like kind of makes the right plays and is what you want. So that'd be my mid. What do you think?
I don't have any response on this. This is why I have no idea. It's been so limited, and he has looked so unskilled to me that when you start saying things like Aaron McKee and Drew Holiday, I feel like we've watched like entirely different players.
No. So he definitely didn't look good in those games for the Sixers, but you watch him in college, you watch him in the G League, and you see like what he could become.
Let's do Isaiah Joe second. And so my floor, this is not a great floor. My floor for him is just some guy. Sure. So a guy
that's the answer to kind of everybody.
Yeah. I couldn't think of a specific player that was just some guy enough. Maybe it's Ben McLemore. Maybe like a guy that hangs around the league that a couple people believe in, but Ben McLemore gets more chances because he was a higher draft pick than Isaiah Joe was.
That's pretty good. McLemore has more athleticism, like natural athleticism, but I think that's the role that he fills. I think that's probably right.
My ceiling was Tim Hardaway Jr.
I think it's a good one. That's a good one. I said Kevin Martin as a ceiling.
Oh wow, I haven't thought about him in forever.
Yeah, I mean like weird shot for sure, but like just like volume 3-point shooter, and maybe there's a way where as he gets older, he has some like creation abilities for himself and does a little more, because we've seen some of that. That's why it's a unlikely to happen, but that kind of gameplay. My floor was Daequan Cook. If you remember him from about 15 years ago, he was in the Thad draft. Actually, we traded.
I remember
Cook
his name
for Jason Smith, if you remember. And he's just like wasn't really great at anything. The shot projected. He was on that Ohio State team that Mike Conley and Greg Oden were on. And you thought that the shot was going to be better than it was, and he took a bunch of them, and it just turned out he wasn't as good of a shooter as the book on him was. And he didn't really contribute anywhere else, just not good enough. And my I did mid for some guys, would be like current Wayne Ellington, where it's just like he's a really good shooter. He can come around screens, do stuff. He gets beat on defense. You don't really want him dribbling that much. He's not one of the best shooters in the game, but like any team could use him.
So I don't think you're allowed to pick the mid one because it's obviously the most likely, which is the most Mike thing to do this.
That's right.
If you made me bet, I have a lot of confidence in Joe, and I'm not sure why. I think Tim Hardaway Jr. is a really good player, and obviously we would be thrilled if Isaiah Joe became Tim Hardaway Jr. But I think it's more likely he becomes that than just some guy. I'm optimistic about him.
I'm optimistic too. You would think that if he was that good, you can't give the coach all the credit and the staff all the rope because they make mistakes all the time. But you would think if you saw more of that in practice, then you'd be like, we need that guy. And that's how I feel. Like I feel like Isaiah Joe would be very necessary as a rotation player on this team, to the point where like I would love to trade. And I can't say any specifics because I do love all these guys, and especially the role players, the young role players. Like I get attached. But if there was a Korkmaz trade or a Shake trade out there that you could move for like a more dominant ball handler, if there was such a person out there available that is not just DJ Augustine, then I would be like, great, we have Isaiah Joe to fill in right away. Like you could do that immediately. But Doc's not playing him, so. Maybe he's not as good as I think he is, but I think Doc is wrong and should find a way to get him in the rotation.
Well, Doc's been wrong before, so
yeah.
Let's do Maxey. Do you want to go first or me first?
Yeah, I mean, I have Kyle Lowry as ceiling. Like, come on, like Lowry as a younger player was more like just speed and effort and ground bound athleticism, and it worked his way into being a really, really good shooter as a small player like that. That's not naturally wasn't that good of a shooter early in his career and at Nova and stuff. And he turned himself into that. And that's kind of how I see Maxey getting there. The floor, I would say, is like sixth man, like Leandro Barbosa type.
Yeah. I said JJ Barea and DJ Augustine.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, Augustine is at least has more point guard to him, like, and always has, especially in his prime. So,
but the speed thing, the small thing.
I think that's right. I think, and I did do a mid for Maxey, which is like Dennis Schroeder, which is like you're a little bit disappointed by, but the speed, he's already like a smarter player who tries harder. And I would also say like a Devin Harris possibly in the middle. Devin Harris had a couple of really good years, but never for like great teams. And could score and obviously hit one of the most depressing shots in Sixers history when he hit a half court shot or a like 3/4 court shot over Andre Iguodala at the buzzer, which was a travel, or at least a clock should have ran out. Still mad, but I mean, I think it's more likely it is I think it's more likely it is Kyle Lowry. I think the thing that happens before draft that we don't get to do is they interview all these guys, and they interview their coaches, they interview their families, and they interview their friends to be like, what kind of person is this person, and will they work hard, and will they be the person that could grow into the X, Y, or Z player? And I just believe Maxey was going to do that. I just really, how much he's improved already, the kind of guy he seems to be, how everybody loves playing with him. I just really, really believe in him as a human being and as a player. So I'll say more likely to hit the upside.
So my upside, now I know these players are not similar to him in style, but similar to him in effectiveness. I had ceiling but I thought about what the result of the good play is. So the points, assists, what they end up being. So CJ McCollum is obviously more crafty, a dribbler and all that kind of, and obviously a better shooter, but is a 23 point, 4.5 assist guy and not lead ball handler. And I had Fred VanVleet too, but I have those as ceiling. I think Tyrese Maxey is great. I struggle with the ceiling that some people are coming up with him on because I don't see him as a 25 or 30 point a game scorer, and I don't see him as a lead
There's
guard.
so few people that are 30 points a game scorer. If you can
Well, but
low
even
20, that's still
even
really good.
25 on a good team. Like I'm not, again, I don't think it's negative. I think he'll be a really good player, but I just don't think he projects out as a lead guard the way Lowry does, or he could. I mean, I've been wrong before, but there's something that doesn't jump out at me on either thing, though he is a hard worker, great kid, very fast, all of those things we'll probably figure out, and this will end up sounding dumb, but I don't see the thing that he does that is like great that ends up with him at the sort of ceiling that people are talking
Yeah,
about.
I mean, it's not a natural. He is the reason people compare him to Tony Parker obviously is the floater, but also just he shoots so well in around the 15 feet in 2-point percentage, which is just unnatural for a guard that doesn't just elevate over people. And there's just something about his touch and his ability to score from that, near mid-range type of thing that makes him with his speed. And I think a shot that I believe in. Maybe he's not a 36% shooter this year or next year. Maybe he has some seasons where he shoots in the low 30s, whatever. But I believe in it being a legitimate weapon eventually in his career. And so I think he's going to get there. I don't think anyone's saying he's going to be a 30 points per game scorer, but I think if he's the second option on a contender as scoring like in the high teens, early 20s, I think that's certainly possible.
Yeah, but I think that is, as far as his role, I think that is more VanVleet, McCollum than it is Lowry. I just don't see him as the first ball handler. That's me. But B-ball Paul, his floor I have is Thanasis Antetokounmpo, and his ceiling is Giannis.
Yeah, I think his floor is like a Hakeem Warwick or
good comp.
Jonah Bolden who doesn't get mad at me on Twitter.
Comp. Yeah.
Did you see Jonah tweet at me?
No, is it about? I'm sure it's about crypto.
No, it was not. Surprisingly, he tweeted a response to. I replied to Derek last week or something. When Derek was talking about, I think he was talking about like how weird the team is and how weird it is that Maxey has improved this much. And that like most young guys don't improve on the Sixers and haven't grown. They forget how to shoot. And I said something like, one time Jonah Bolden made a good pass. And like 6 days later, Jonah Bolden replies, like calling me Mr. Levin and like said, like, keep doing your thing. Like it seemed like I was texting with Derek about it. I was like, do you think he knows who I am and like has read or heard me talk before? But I'm like, I was more pro Jonah Bolden than I had any right to be for a very long time.
An embarrassing length of time when it was obvious he wasn't.
So if Jonah Bolden is going around here acting like I'm one of his haters, then there it is. CJ just put it up. Then he's incorrect. He's wrong. I mean, now he's not good, and he's doing some weird pyramid.
You're doing great. It's such a diss.
It's a salty tweet. I'm just like, I don't know.
Maybe
you're on your name on the shirt, Jonah. Like, I'm gonna bring you up. I'm not bringing you up because of anything other than I'm bringing up freaking Chuchu Maduabum. I'm bringing up we're in the bringing up some names era of Sixers basketball, and you're one of the names, so you're getting
Holy shit.
Very weird.
Do you think maybe he's heard the pod like twice and he just thinks that you're me?
Who knows?
He might just not know the difference.
Yeah,
you're doing great.
I'm sure he hasn't listened to every episode of the pod. I wasn't sure he wasn't tracking, okay, how does Mike feel about Jonah Bolden for 4 years or whatever.
You're doing great.
Yeah, I was doing great. And then ceiling, I would say, is like a rim protecting Thad. I've talked about him as like very strange Thad meets like with like a little Rashawn. I also think there's like just a slight dash, a tiny dash, like a little nothing, a little of Lamar Odom. Like just a little bit ceiling of like some creation, some like gets to the rim in a weird way. There's passing vision there. He's just got to be harnessed, and it's unlikely that he is harnessed. But as like a incredibly switchable, deflections aplenty, like jump shot that worked in the G League for some reason. Like you can see it getting there, but it's a lot of weirdness. You have to get through a lot of weirdness to be like, this guy's going to be an effective NBA player. But I believe in him. There's too many like winning positive attributes for me to not think he will at least have a couple successful seasons somewhere, even if it's not here for Doc, because Doc thinks he's too weird.
Let's talk about the sponsor that is closest to your heart, Mike. That is LL Pavorsky Jewelers. Why is he so close, would you say? To your heart.
We vacation together all the time.
Yeah.
In the cabana.
He's wearing the suit the whole time. Wearing the suit the whole. What is that?
That's an alarm.
Oh, I was gonna say, does that mean you have to give a take?
No, it's fine. I'll mute myself.
LL Pavorsky Jewelers, the first sponsor of the Ricky. Christmas is right around the fucking corner. Jeez Louise. And you need a gift. Maybe you want to propose. Great time to propose. Mike bought his engagement ring.
Alyssa just texted, LOL, not your morning. Like, you set up the alarm. Forgot to turn the thing off. It's LL. LL will forgive Alyssa for anything.
Yeah. Well, and Alyssa is wearing a ring from Mike from LL Pavorsky Jewelers, our original sponsor, LL Pavorsky Jewelers. Great. There's nothing. I've said this a million times. Don't not propose on a holiday because you think it's too cliche. People like being proposed to. Propose on a holiday. It's a lovely time to do it. Don't get married on a holiday, then your anniversary is, but certainly propose on a holiday. LL Pavorsky Jewelers, llpavorsky.com. If you want to make a, an appointment with him, email him, tweet him at LL Pavorsky, email him, lee@llpavorsky.com. Call the store, which has been there for over 30 years now, 215-627-2252. Over 220 Rights to Ricky Sanchez listeners, including Mike, have purchased engagement rings from LL. We love LL. LL Pavorsky Jewelers.
All ceiling, no floor.
And, when we're talking about Christmas, I just want to mention Kinetic Skateboarding. If you're going to get me a gift, don't get me a skateboard or snowboard. I'm too old. I'll break my neck. But you want to get me a hoodie. You want to get me those vegan New Balances that they have at kineticskateboarding.com. And if you buy a new snowboard from Kinetic right now, you'll get free tunes for the life of the snowboard. That's like $50 each time. You're saving money. Kineticskateboarding.com. That's where you get Spike a gift or your favorite 45-year-old in your life who still wears skateboarding hoodies. You want to do Ferk next?
Yeah, I mean, I think he's pretty fully formed at this point. I think it's hard to see him really developing much more. I think he just needs to shoot above like 37% from three constantly. And I really think that he is taking on too much responsibility this year, like because they lack other ball handlers. And I would really like to see him just be a guy that can occasionally attack a closeout, occasionally run pick and roll, and just be more of a guy that shoots 6-7 threes a game. And I think there is he's very well liked here, but I think if he doesn't just become a reliable 3-point shooter on volume, there's a chance that he doesn't stick in a rotation somewhere else whenever he goes to another team. But I do think that there could be some Nick Batum ground bound, jack of all trades potential. I think even though I don't love him doing so much of that this year, I think he could get better at it and be fine doing it. And but I would like to see more of the shooting and less of the other stuff, but it might be better for his career overall to keep developing the other stuff.
I'm just proud of my ceiling as guard Boris Diaw. I like everything that he does with the basketball. He's just, to your point, doing it too much. But I do think there is room for him to grow and get better. I agree with you that he's fully formed in that he'll never become an all-star or anything like that. But he's gotten so much better in the 3 years that he's been here.
Mhm.
You know, like we keep seeing players get better and better and better into their late 20s if they put in the work to do so. And
Mhm.
it's not going to happen for every player, but he's gotten so much better that I actually believe that he's got more to go. And I think he could be a 20-minute a game guy on a contender, like pretty solidly, actually.
I think.
You
I
know,
mean, I think he was last year, basically.
I don't think we were a contender last year. That's the
And they were the one.
difference.
They were the one seed. Like they
Yeah.
objectively, if you're the one seed, you get to be labeled a contender. You don't get to
Mm.
win a championship all the time, but you get to be called a contender. I
Hmm.
also I think it's funny that between Diao and Batum, our ceiling for him is becoming French.
Yes. That's a really good point. He does need to get into wine. I would love a Ferk wine stage.
Yeah.
You know, it would be great.
I think we're gonna get that. That I believe
Yeah.
in for sure.
Yeah. And the hair keeps going. It's amazing.
Mhm.
What about Shake? So,
Yeah.
you know, floor is obviously what it is. I think I had his ceiling as Alec Burks.
I think there's more in there. I think there's an argument that Shake Milton is a better player than Alec Burks. Alec Burks
Right
has had
now?
like
No
yeah.
way.
I mean, Alec Burks won the Sixers last year or 2 years ago and getting played over by Shake Milton. So it's not. I mean, Alec Burks has been helpful for New York. He does things well. But like he's got his weaknesses, and he's like a really like replacement level combo guard player. I think that with like you need the jumper to get back to 40%, and I believe in it, even though it still looks like a medicine ball. There's a chance that if he maximizes all of his skills in the right environment, and keeps improving on the margins, he could have like a couple Goran Dragic type seasons where he gets to the rim and really orchestrates and just like is just a very, very helpful player all the time. Never an all-star, but like a legitimate starter level player in the league. And I think maybe if he went to a bad team and became more of a primary option and just like put up stats, he could maybe do some like John Salmons Sacramento era, like
John
scoring and
Salmons.
distributing stuff. I definitely had
Yeah.
John Salmons on my fantasy team in like 2009 or whatever. And I was like, he's averaging like 19, 7, and 7 somehow. Like I'm just benefiting from it. And if the jumper just like falls off forever and it just never gets back and he's can only do mid-range stuff, like maybe he becomes. It's hard to say this guy because he was so singular to those Golden State teams, but like older Sean Livingston on like a regular team where he's just like kind of doing some stuff, not good enough from 3, just like being fine. He became maximized on those Golden State teams with Iguodala, but on another
But
team,
Livingston, maybe in terms of effectiveness, but Livingston had such a point guard mind, and I don't think Shake has.
Yeah, I mean, just like that kind of role of just like secondary ball handler, mostly in the mid range,
Yeah.
like not athletic anymore after his injury, like those kinds of things.
Matisse, I have as whatever he is now, but I think if he doesn't improve, he could become like an 8-minute a game player if he doesn't improve. And I have his ceiling as like hyper Danny Green.
Yeah, Matisse, he's just so singular to me. Like there's just never been anybody like him on the defensive end. Like Danny the best version of Danny is just so solid all the time. And Matisse is a game breaker. So I don't think that there's really like a version of it. I think there's wing Draymond, like as like a more, less rim protectory, less 1 through 5, but like 1 through 4, just turn the whole defense on its head, like can anchor the defense from not the center position. Yeah, offensively, I thought he had a couple nice passes last night, although he didn't really shoot at all. They're just going to keep drifting off him. Like we just, we're going to keep doing this, right? Where he's helpful on one end. He occasionally does some stuff. He gets out in transition. I would like his game to be supplemented by more cuts, although he does it sometimes and the team just doesn't find him. Like how often does he get the ball in the dunker spot? Like never. Like very rarely is he getting like an alley-oop to that. It just doesn't seem like this team optimizes that. It's more just a place to stand. And then I think if he never improves his offensive game, like Andre Roberson, just like borderline unplayable.
Yeah, that's a good one. I forgot about Roberson.
Because you can't in a playoff game have somebody guard you 20 feet away. I think Matisse is already a better shooter than Roberson, but like he's just got to be there's a rhythm to it. And if he's just going to stand there, like he's not a confident enough shooter where he's like, good, play off me. I will hit this shot with everyone looking at me and taking my time. Even like Lou Williams yesterday was open, but for like 45 minutes in the corner. And like he did a little like rhythm dribble. It's weird in an NBA game to be that out of rhythm because they're not covering you. And for non-elite shooters, like it gets in your head. I think for everybody it gets in your head. And so I think Matisse just needs to be like, that's why you see him like shoot pretty quickly because he wants to be in rhythm and feel like it's just like I'm not thinking about it. I'm just going up and trusting my form. But yeah, he's just got to get better. I mean, we say it every year.
You've been more positive about his offensive growth than I have, but like I don't think he's better at anything on offense. It's nominal. It's sort of like when 25's free throw percentage would go up 1 point, we'd be like, he's better at free throws. Like, no, he's not. Thibault, it will keep saying this every year. If he doesn't spend 100,000 hours in the offseason shooting threes, so he becomes better than a 30% shooter, I don't know what the fuck he's worked on. He's in his mid-20s and he's still like a complete, borderline disaster offensively. He doesn't do anything well, really. Like he doesn't think the game particularly well. He doesn't get to the line. He can't dribble. He can't shoot. He can't pass. Like I don't know. And he is perhaps the most special defensive wing player I've ever seen.
Yeah.
I don't even know that there's anything close. Maybe like peak Kawhi or peak LeBron. But he does things that those players didn't even do. But offensively, he's just such a disaster that I don't know that a wing defender can be impactful enough to stay on the court without being at least passable on offense.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you put him on current Minnesota, where there's like guys who can shoot, guys who can create from every position, and there's like we really need just like a defensive guy, and that's all you do, and he just like runs the floor, plays defense. Like it's a little tougher here because Embiid, you want Embiid to post up, and they've determined, multiple regimes of coaches have determined like the best way to optimize Embiid in the post is for everyone just stand still. The guy closest to the guy who feeds Embiid an entry pass, and then he cuts through the lane, is never passed to, then circles back around to the corner, and then those four guys stand there with one of them in the dunker spot sometimes. Yep. And they just stand there. And so on a team where it's not that, maybe, and it's just like shooting and freedom and like he can cut, like if you put Matisse on like the Warriors right now, it'd be insane. Like it would be absolutely insane. Like he would be optimized, and it would be like how much better has he gotten? But it's just like, oh, it's because of the offense they run. And it's just not the offense that Embiid runs is just not conducive to like minimizing Matisse's many offensive flaws.
But I do think on a team like Golden State, there would be games that Matisse wouldn't play at all. Like I think he could be this chaos agent that they throw out there that if it doesn't work, he's off the court in 2 minutes and doesn't get back in the game. I don't know. Who knows? I mean, who knows? We'll see. I would love for him to be able to harness what he has, and it will take one thing on offense. He's going to need to learn how to do one thing, and it just seems like shooting is the most likely that could happen. You know, it's hard to become a good ball handler and all that kind of stuff. It seems like shooting is something that is easier to work on in the offseason.
Sure. I think he has improved his dribble. Like I'm gonna scrutinize all the things he's gotten, but I think he has improved in transition, finishing as a like steal go the other way and there's a guy in the way. Like there were times early in his career when you just saw him like put up just bullshit. Mm-hmm. I would like to see him as a screener a little bit more, as a roller. If this team has more passing, like him as a lob threat would be really nice for me because he gets up so quick and he's long. Like those kinds of things would be nice, but it just might not be the right scenario for him to do that. And so I wonder, I wonder what the future holds for him. I don't think the team's looking to trade him at all. I think that they really like his like singular skills, and with Danny getting older, I think they're thinking that he would just fit into that role. Possibly, really wonder what kind of contract he would get. It might be unpalatable, and if they are worried about having to pay him that much money, then maybe they do start to think about trading him. But yeah, it's we're going to keep having the same conversation about him because he hasn't gotten good enough offensively.
What do I have? I have Bassey and for you, Grant Riller.
Thank you.
So Grant
We don't
Riller,
need to do Aaron Henry. It's fine. Aaron Henry's a solid 3-and-D guy. He's going to be great. Bassey, I think the ceiling is like Theo Ratliff. I think he just like blocks a ton of shots. He rolls really hard.
Yeah.
And like Ratliff was a pretty good foul shooter for a big guy. And I think Bassey's the same type of deal. And I think it's just, he is the prototypical, like I rebound my ass off. I set screens and run. Like he's not trying to do too much. The floor for me would be like Jordan Hill, if you remember him. He went to Arizona. He was drafted, I think, like 4th overall, and just was like just bad. Like the shooting never came together. He was big and had like a big body. They thought like they were determined to make him like a shooter, but like he just never put it together. There's nothing he was actually really good at. And so if he like goes away from his strengths, but for me, like Bassey is long. He screens and rolls hard, and he blocks the fuck out of shots. Like that's like all you need to be as a center. There's very little doubt in my mind that Bassey will be a very solid, at least backup center for a long time, and occasionally on the right situation, like get some spot starts, whatever. But he's just a ready-made second round, like didn't cost any value to get him, just solid big man that the Sixers haven't had for a while, backing up Embiid because everybody else had so many other flaws.
And Grant Riller?
Riller, I think, is somewhere between ceiling is somewhere between like an Ish Smith and a Jordan Clarkson, with like speed and shiftiness and like can get his own shot and some creation for others. I think like jitterbug scorer type of thing is what you're hoping for. And he's really, I really hope we get a chance to see him play because his finishing around the rim is really impressive and unique for a guy his size. And I would love to see it in some regular season games. And this floor is like, I don't know, Mike James. His floor might be Grant Riller right now, just like never playing in the G League.
I fucking love Mike James. Mike James is a great comp. It's who I thought about when I saw Grant Riller.
Yeah, we heard he's still injured and stuff, so I would like him to be healthier and play.
We did 2 more weeks. That's what we heard, right? As of a few days ago, All right. We will end. We'll get to mailbag next time, but we'll end with the hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week because I don't want to miss the YouTube comment. Very quick appearance for Mike. Mike in and out. Good appearance. So
Jason Peters, I block. I pull my hamstring and I leave. 2
hard to stomach YouTube comments of the week. One I just thought was funny, but the other one I thought was sort of interesting. The funny one comes from I'm not going to say his name because it seems like it could be some bad name, but the Sixers all move like they have thumbtacks in their shoes, and that made me laugh. Like it seems like Danny sort of moves that way, thumbtacks in the shoes, and it also made me remember that my 2 fears, one basketball, one non-basketball, my 2 irrational fears. My irrational fear playing basketball was always that I would break my finger. I was like always terrified that I would break my finger playing basketball because I saw a dislocated one once when I was playing basketball, and it was horrifying to me. Dislocations are so gross to me, like the whole pop it back in thing. And I always had a fear when I was younger about sitting on a thumbtack because dickheads in my middle school and high school would put thumbtacks on people's seats. It's fucking horrible.
Sure. Yes, that definitely runs. If the floor was mic'd a little bit more, not just the rims, and you could hear them just like as they're dribbling, go like ow, 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 ow. That's why they're going so slow. Yeah.
By the way, a great comment on the YouTube from James Steen. Daryl is going to flip Ben for 2 monkey NFTs and a dog coin. And then the other hard to stomach YouTube comment of the week is from J Bart. And I poo-pooed this months ago from Eurojohn on Twitter. If anyone is in part of Philly basketball Twitter, Eurojohn, who has never seen an American player he likes and never seen a European player he doesn't like. But J Bart says, give me Ricky Rubio. And man, if Ricky Rubio isn't a nice, like, backcourt mate to Maxey, that I feel like I poo-pooed before, but he's obviously not the guy that we need. But if you're just talking about, a player that is gettable, then all those sorts of things, I think Rubio has evolved in a very quiet, nice way. And him as a backcourt mate with Maxey, given his size, his lead ball handling ability, all that kind of stuff, I think he would be, is an interesting thought,
I mean, totally. I think that's exactly the role he's serving with Darius Garland in Cleveland right now, especially without Sexton. I feel like, and they're doing well. I feel like they're going to hold on to him. And they're currently, I think, have a better record than the Sixers. So it's just tough. I love Evan Mobley, and they've found something with Mobley and Jared Allen and Larry Markkinen. If the wheels fall off there, somebody gets hurt, maybe they decide to, grab another good pick or whatever, but I think it's probably unlikely. I mean, Rubio is the kind of guy where in previous seasons it'd be like, okay, let's just get him and like have at least some stability in the on the second unit, or even maybe if Maxey struggled, you'd flip him and stuff. I was thinking there were a couple, especially in light of the 73-point loss from the Oklahoma City Thunder.
Yeah.
There were some more SGA little ruminatings.
Yep.
I love SGA. He's not playing well this year, not playing as well. His percentages are way, way down. If they don't think that they're going to be able to, like, they just signed him already. So if they think he's going to be if he's asking for a trade, if he's tired of it there, if they want to hand the keys over to Josh Giddey, who looks good as a rookie.
Fucking love Josh Giddey. Was in my top 10 YouTube billboard, by the way.
Then maybe you look at, I would, if that's a Ben trade, then I would be so happy about it. I'd be very happy about SGA. Always loved him. They took him a one pick after Mikal Bridges, who was then unceremoniously given away. So it would be nice if SGA came home, and I would love, and if you do that with a CJ trade, say you did like a Tobias CJ situation, I just started dreaming about it. If you trade, this is the last
CJ
thing.
is so much better than Tobias.
If you trade Tobias and Danny for CJ and Cove, if they just want to move on, obviously we should have talked about Portland fired Neil Olshey.
Yeah.
It's total chaos there. Jason Quick wrote an article for The Athletic where it's just totally destroying everything that's going on there. It's so stupid when we're going to hire a coach for a long time. Okay, we're going to fire the GM. Like, it's bad. And they're saying it's because of the abuse and workplace harassment and just toxic workplace investigation. But like, it's really because they're bad. Like, I don't believe it at all. It took like 3 weeks for them to be bad, and they lost to the Spurs at home by a lot. And then they fired their GM, and it's like, okay, yeah, I'm sure this is the principled stand you're taking for sure. But if things fall off there, my like, I'm pissed at the Sixers, and let's just try to make some stuff happen. Tobias, Danny, and a pick for CJ and Cove. Ben and Seth for SGA and Darius Baisley, who I think would be nice for size and development going forward. And then Korkmaz and B-Ball Paul for Terrence Ross. And then you go Maxey, CJ, SGA, Cove, Embiid as the starters, with plenty of ball handling there, with Shake, Terrence Ross, Matisse, Niang, Drummond off the bench. And I think that'd be a really, really good team.
Let me make a point about SGA just as maybe a nod to the haters, because I think this could be a situation where it's true. One of the things about the Sixers and everyone that said losing culture and yada, 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 is that the players that ended up here did not really lose for that long. And it wasn't really that bad. Like, Ben was never on a losing team.
No.
Embiid was only on one for 1 year, and he only played a third of the year.
Yeah. And in that January, it was like, we could make the playoffs. Like, it was not bad.
But the SGA, to be at the point in his development he is, for the Thunder to be doing this, it just has to be hurting him mentally and his game. It's just like, this sort of like repeated losing on purpose and just, I don't blame them for doing what they're doing and how they're doing it. They have a lot of young, interesting players. But if you're SGA, who's probably 24 or 25 or something like that, you're in like the pre-part of your prime. You're on a good team. You could be an all-star level player. You just have to look around.
You're in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, you're in Oklahoma City, and you just have to be like, what the fuck is this? And it has to be hurting him at this point, I think. So
yeah, and they're gonna. Yeah, I think. Look, everything doesn't have to be a referendum on the process and how we were fucked. But like, it certainly could be.
Could be. Yeah.
Two lesser guys certainly could make this about a referendum on the process and how Dave Silver's a fucking loser and the Colangelos are losers and they should have like just gone the fuck away. But because it's happening in Oklahoma City and Sam Presti has had a track record of that, it's just like, it's weird. Honestly, it might have been our fault. Like, it might have been our fault for talking about the process and raving about it. And everybody was like, we can't have this happen. And it just became unnarrative. It's just so wild how like just things become stories and they just like have a life of their own. And then it's like, you can't move on from it. Whereas like Oklahoma City, it's like, yeah, everybody's what they're doing. Oh wow, look at them getting picks. It's fun. Rather than like no one's saying sanctity of the game. I think they might have started saying sanctity after the 73-point loss.
Yeah.
But like they've been doing this for a long time. Like, and they're a scrappy team. Like they're not horrendous. They're not the worst team in the world. But by the way, neither were the Sixers. Neither were the Sixers ever one fucking season when Joel Embiid hurt his foot for a second time. And it's just like, okay, it was wrong then. I don't think that whatever. Fuck the league. Fuck this league. This league is drunk. Fuck them.
This league is drunk. All right. We will talk to you later this week. We appreciate you hanging out with us. Some of you have been more part of this pod than Mike even has. Mike didn't even hear the beginning part of it. So,
that's right. And I never will again.
Never will again. We'll talk to you later this week. Are you down with TTP?
Yeah. Lick face.